podcast. This is ABC DVD, two brothers' alphabetical journey through their never-ending collection of movies. I'm Josh.
And I'm Noah.
And today we're talking about Labyrinth, a 1986 movie. This was directed by Jim Henson. This is his final directorial movie before he died. I know. If you don't know who Jim Henson is, I'm sorry. You need to be raised better. He directed The Great Muppet Caper and Dark Crystal, among many other things, but those are some of his movie ones. It was written by, the story was written by Dennis Lee. He's usually known as a composer. He did things for Fraggle Rock and Sesame Street. But the screenplay was by Terry Jones of Monty Python fame. He's written other things like Fierce Creatures. He had a hand in all the Monty Python movies. Also Eric the Viking. I also will say that it was executive produced by George Lucas, who kind of hid from this because he wanted to make sure that Jim Henson got the limelight for it, because they were like lifelong friends.
Yeah, which I did not know.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen like a Star Wars documentary, because there's countless of them, he wanted Jim Henson to be Yoda or something like that, and Jim Henson's like, no, I know a better guy. Choose Frank Oz. But yeah, close friends. Starring Jennifer Connelly, who was 15 or 16 years old at the time. She's known for A Beautiful Mind, Rocketeer, and Requiem for a Dream. I know. Also starring David Bowie as the Goblin King. He's known for The Man Who Fell to Earth, The Prestige, and Zoolander, not counting his music career. And I chose for a third person Brian Henson as the voice of Hoggle. He's done other Muppet things, but he's also been in Return to Oz, the TV show Dinosaurs. He was the grandma dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
And all the Muppet films. He's been in the family business.
The family business of Muppets.
So yeah, this did well. It did about shy of $14 million worldwide, which is not bad for an 80s movie at all, especially one that is what would be considered a kid's film, but I think with like the idea of Dark Crystal and the Labyrinth, Jim Henson was trying to show that Muppets could be a little bit more serious, a little bit more adult than, let's say, The Muppet Show or Sesame Street.
And this came out after Dark Crystal.
Yes.
And I know that if you've never seen Dark Crystal, that is his super serious Muppet film, and I think he took a cue from that and kind of scaled it back a little bit.
Yeah, I think there were some criticisms of it was a little too weird, a little too dark. People brought their kids and were expecting something else, so he probably included more jokes and more musical numbers for this one. Let me get the synopsis from Google. Teenage Sarah, Jennifer Connelly, journeys through a maze to recover her baby brother, Toby Frode, from the Goblin King, David Bowie.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean, it's not wrong.
It's short. It's simple.
I love it! Oh! God, we peaked on that one. But yeah, we get the opening credits with an owl, a CGI owl, which kind of reminded me of Bubo from Clash of the Titans. It's Clash of the Titans. And this is apparently the first attempt of a photorealistic animal in CGI.
Yep, movie history right there.
Yeah, I mean, it
doesn't look bad. It definitely looks dated.
I mean, yeah, in the credit sequence, I would be fine with it just being the CGI owl. It's just when it's in the movie itself, it's like, oh, there's the real owl, there's the fake owl.
Well, I'd say, before this, and this is my nostalgia thing, it's the TriStar horse.
Yeah, the TriStar.
I love... It's like, you don't see him anymore because I don't think TriStar exists as a movie house, but it's like, there are so many movies of the 80s that has this Pegasi.
This
Pegapod?
This Pegapod. This Pegasus shows up and it's like, am I going to get to see Neverending Story, I think, is a TriStar, or am I going to see
Look Who's Talking,
or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? These might not be TriStars, but this is what my brain says are TriStars.
No, but it's like if people are old enough to remember the HBO dance song, because HBO had a very long lead-in before some of their movies, TriStars like that too. It's like, the sound and the horse jumping, like it just is nostalgia for 80s movies.
Yeah. Then we get Jennifer Connelly, Sarah in the park, doing her, Shakespeare in the Park by herself with her dog.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, is this like her tryout for the movies? Because she's got the screenplay, and she doesn't have that last line memorized.
And I think this is her mom's part.
Okay. Which we'll get to.
Well, which we'll get to, because that is not really spelled out in this movie.
No, there's a few things that do not make or break this movie, but when you start to like look into the history of this, it's like, oh, well, that would have been nice to know. It would have had a little more impact.
And she gets home. Her stepmother kind of scolds her because they were supposed to go out, and she's late, and it's like, we want you to babysit your half brother.
Well, and I'd say it's like, I know this is a very snappy movie. It's moving along. This is probably the most scripted moment of the film, is where they come in and it's like, I just asked you to do this. I'll go talk to her. It's like, it is the most stilted.
Yeah, the parents aren't, the dad and the stepmom aren't that great, but
it's a setup.
It's a setup to show that she feels put upon, but as you kind of learn later, she's not.
Yeah, and
I just want the nerd in me want to say Christopher Malcolm plays the father, and he's from Empire Strikes Back. He's the one in the snow speeder that finds Han and Luke in the snow. It's like, I found them.
No, some more Henson Lucas crossovers.
Yeah, that's a Henson and Lucas crossover.
But yeah, no, we go into her room and she has a lot of stuff, and this is one of those movies that it's like, no, pay attention to all the stuff because it is going to come up in her journey.
Everything in that room has some reference to what happens in the movie. Either it be a stuffed animal that will become a character, the Labyrinth toy that will be Labyrinth, or
David Bowie pictures, David Bowie
There's
pictures.
actual pictures, and this is where we were kind of referencing of the mom's, her actual bio mom is no longer in the picture, but she's not dead. It seems to imply that she has left the family for either her job as an actress or her job as an actress for this man who is David Bowie.
No, and I had to look it up, is the mom did leave, because I always thought mom was dead.
Yeah.
But no, mom left for the David Bowie lookalike, which has a little bit of, Freudian psychology there of like, oh, so she's having these images of the Goblin King as this man who stole her mom.
Yeah, she's trying to get the same attention as kind of like Electra Nachos, or, the female version of Oedipus, the delicious electric nachos. There's also I noticed this time a small copy of the game Dungeons and Dragons in the upper right hand corner on one of her shelves.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And this is the first time I thought that, because I wasn't still never really played D&D, but I'm now more familiar with it. And this movie is a D&D campaign.
Yeah, I can see that.
You get the journey, the encounters, and you get the building of the team.
Yes.
And this is the first time that I kind of viewed it under that lens.
And so the parents make a quick breakout. Yes. They're like, they're gone.
Yeah.
Real quick. And there's an exposition story to the baby to calm it down, because babies like exposition. But, and I think this is where you first get the Muppets. And I'd say the Muppets in this are probably the best looking Muppets for the Jim Henson Company. Is they are scary, but they're also funny. There's a lot of detail, but there's this balance of, we're going to be doing some scary stuff, but we're going to intermingle jokes and funny things.
So you get the creepy looking goblins waiting for her to invoke the proper spell, but you also get the dumb one going, what's going on? And everyone's just shush.
Well, I think the movie does a good balance throughout the whole thing of like, it is scary at times, but then it will liven it up with a joke or something.
Yeah. And this is all the fact that she doesn't want to watch her half-brother Toby, and he's named that because they were going to name him initially like Freddy, but they needed the baby to react, and the best way to do that is to do something the baby knows.
And the baby knows its name.
Yeah.
But she does invoke the wish, and the baby goes silent instantly. And as a father, nothing is more concerning when it gets quiet, because something is gone wrong.
Yeah, and she goes in and checks on Toby, and there's this creepiness, and this is, I think, a reference to actual folktale of the Changeling, where the Fey folk would come and take a baby and replace it with either an identical one or with a goblin or a fairy. And so there's all these nice literary and folktale references that just enhance this movie.
And we get a lot of creepy things, and then the Goblin King,
David Bowie himself,
comes in. And I have a memory, is the first time I saw this movie, I thought David Bowie was a woman, with the big 80s hair.
Yeah.
And I don't feel 100% bad about that, because when I showed it to my kids, it's like, who's that lady? And it's like, I understand David Bowie had a lot of things, but it is that thing of like, to little kids, I could see at the very beginning, like, oh, that's a woman.
And David Bowie played with gender norms of the 80s and liked embracing that. So I don't think it's wrong to think that way.
Not at all. But I do find it interesting that in hiring Dave Bowie, other actors who were up for the position was Sting and Michael Jackson. And Jim Henson really wanted Sting until his children, adult children,
because one of them's in this.
Really pushed for David Bowie, saying, no, he's got a better attitude and he's got a rising star. I think he would be perfect for this role. And I could not imagine Sting being in this.
But then we get the David Bowie Goblin King crystal ball thing, which I found interesting. This is actually done by a juggler by Michael Mosklin or something. You can go on YouTube and he's got these fun acts. But this was very hard for him because, yes, he knows how to juggle, but he had to juggle behind David Bowie, reaching forward to make it look like it's David Bowie's arm and doing it blind, which was a hard handicap for him to do.
No, and I think it is one of those things that you do focus on, is like these crystal balls, and just the dexterity.
And I think this started like so many teenagers start into trying to do the juggling of the crystal balls, or the Ren Fest of let's make it seem stable and all that. And this is a line I use all the time, and it's weird, like when I want someone to stop, or like with the kids, is like, just turn back, Sarah, before it is too late. It's just like I use that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're transported, instantaneously to the labyrinth, and he gives her 13 hours to get there, and there is, significance to the 13th hour.
It's the hour between midnight and 1 a.m. It's that magical anything can happen time. It's this fun time of where the fantastic can happen.
Yes, but very much in the art of an adventure thing is like, we are off to the races. There's not a lot of exposition. There's not a lot of questioning. She's given the task and she goes into it.
And we meet our first companion of Hoggle, voiced by Brian Henson.
I always find funny is there is some very fun adult humor here that if you're not a kid paying attention, is that he is just peeing in the pool.
Yeah, he's peeing in the pool and he's spraying basically little tiny naked women, the fairies. And I do like that the fairies are kind of mischievous because, again, in folktale, fae folk are not to be trifled with.
Well, and I think this movie definitely plays off expectations versus reality, is that she thinks things are certain ways and they're not, and she has to figure out, I have to change my thinking because, he says you have to ask the right question.
Yeah, and not everything is as it seems, you gotta look a different way.
But in that kind of vein, there's a lot of things that the movie producers put in this thing, like Hoggle's jacket has two faces on the back, and it kind of symbolizes that he is a two-faced character through a majority of this. Also, as you go through the movie, there are David Bowie faces in the wall or in statues to kind of show that he's always watching her.
The hidden Bowies, can you find them all?
I think there's 7.
7 or 8, yeah. And she goes in, and this meets like one of the first random characters on the road, which is the glowworm. Hello,
the hello worm.
Come on, come inside and meet the missus.
Which I think is one of those standout characters that was never meant to be bigger than he was, but it's like
everyone
was like, oh, the worm.
Yeah, and he sends her on her way, and it's that, oh God, he sent her on the wrong way, and I'm always curious of. Did he do her harm or did he do her help? And like that, if he sent her, she would go directly to the castle, but going the wrong way, it's the friends we made along the way kind of thing.
Exactly. And I want to point out, it's like the fun, practical aspects. Is like, the set design is awesome. There's like little things moving around, but that wall is all practical effect.
Optical illusions are very cool, and I know I would fail the bricks look like they should fit, but it's like, oh no, the bricks in the background are a little bit larger, so they mesh with the bricks in the foreground, so it looks like one solid wall.
There's a lot of these like practical effects or really good paintings that just bring the labyrinth to life.
And then we go to what is probably the most famous song of this movie, of Magic Dance.
Yep.
And I remember seeing like a behind the scenes feature of this movie, and to see that set without the Muppets, it's like, how did no one kill themselves? Because it's full of holes and trenches. But when it's filled with Muppets, it is this amazing set and this amazing song.
Yes, it is 48 Muppets, 52 puppeteers, and 8 full-body costume actors.
Yeah.
It is a full set.
Jim Henson did not want to do this by halves.
No, and he did I mean, this is a fun song that I think when you hear it as a kid and when you hear it, it's like, it is just, I mean, it's David Bowie doing what David Bowie does best. And just like, it's a fun song.
Yeah, and it's David Bowie for kids. I mean, that's all it is, but it's perfect for this movie, and it's perfect for the tone, and you just love it.
Yep. And you get the quintessential rumor / confirmed as, yes, that is David Bowie making baby gurgle sounds.
Yeah, they couldn't get Toby to make the actual baby noises because, like anyone who's worked in Hollywood, they always say don't work with babies or animals because it's notorious, and Toby would sometimes cry. You're only allowed so many minutes with them. And so, you can see when Toby's actually on set and when it's a baby because that's how you have to do these things.
Well, and it was said that there are times when Toby looks completely transfixed. It's because David Bowie actually had a special Muppet that he would have to have on his hand, so when Toby would get upset, he would bring it out, make some, fun, dad sounds, and then put it away, and Toby would be like, huh?
Yeah, they're trying to make it not traumatizing for a child, which I appreciate that they did that. Then we get go back to Sarah, and we get to one of my favorite. The one of us always tells the truth, and one of us always lies, and I love that she actually solves it.
Yeah, it's a classic riddle. Like, if someone's always telling the truth and always someone telling a lie, how would you solve this?
And you have to do it within one question, because if you got like 2 or 3 questions, this is an easy one. But if you only get one question, and it seems like. When I watched it as a kid, she answered wrong because she goes into the pit of hands. But if you actually follow the logic, she gets it right.
Right. And there is a fun thing that I never noticed, but this time I've picked up on it, is every time someone says it's a piece of cake, something bad happens.
Oh, yeah. No, never.
And it happens like 4 times.
Yeah, never say anything is going well. The labyrinth will punish you.
But yes, you get the helping hands, which is
creepy and cool.
Yeah, Jim Henson did this in the early Muppet Show days of having like actors who could make things with their hands, but there was like 100 hands.
Yeah, latex
hands to make these faces and... just they're very emotive and they're just hands and it's just a creative way.
Yep. And then, do you know what an oubliette is?
I do.
Yeah,
I totally didn't look it up. But it's French for to forget.
Yeah, it's a classic French prison where there's only one entrance and that's from the ceiling, so there is no other exit. But with the magic of like Howl's Moving Castle door, they get out. Then she runs into the Goblin King again, and this line of it's not fair. It's like you say it so often. I wonder what your basis of comparison made me immediately think of
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride of inconceivable. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Well, it's another line that I use all the time just because it makes me laugh. Is when it says nothing, tra la la.
Yeah.
It's like it's just fun to say. Why? Because I'm a dad. We also get a running gag here of people mispronouncing Hoggle's name.
Oh yeah, we've been doing that from the beginning, but yeah.
Well, I mean, she did it first. At first, it's like that's just feels like she's being mean.
Yeah.
But then you realize as it goes on is that no, they're all purposely or
either intentionally or hurtfully saying instead of Hoggle, it's Hogwart or Haggle or something.
Hogbrain.
Hogbrain, yeah.
But we get the second piece of cake because it's a piece of cake, and he says, "Oh, well, if it's a piece of cake, then you don't mind taking on the cleaners."
Yeah.
So you get this drill machine
that looks scary from the front and is kind of funny from the back.
Exactly, it's just like this fun little contraption.
It's a Muppet mullet. Business for front, party in the back. Then we get up back into the main area of the labyrinth, and we meet our next hero companion or part of our D&D group of Ludo, which I always pronounced Bluto when I heard the movie, but it's actually Ludo, of the rock summoner or rock friend, a just giant dog-like creature that I just fell in love immediately with.
Well, he reminds me of the abominable snowman from Looney Tunes, like, I'm gonna love him and squeeze him and call him George.
Yeah, this scary thing that's just huge.
But apparently the outfit was so large that they actually had to put a video camera in one of the horns so that the actor could see where they were going.
Yeah, where to look, where to stop, and not run into things. Yeah, this was a two-person rig, which isn't unheard of, but it was a giant two-person rig.
Well, it was originally 100 pounds, and Jim Henson's like, no, that's absurd. You have to cut it down. And the best they could do was 75 pounds, which is still a lot of stuff for 2 people to walk around in.
Yeah.
But we get to another thing of the knockers, which is a very quick scene, but I want to point out, this is one of those pieces of merchandise that you can still buy today, is the two knockers.
Yeah, and I always questioned why Sarah wanted to go through that one door.
Yeah, because it's there's nothing saying you couldn't go through the other door.
It's you just need to knock at one of the doors, and the other one who has his ears blocked is well, his is fine. Why did you have to... But, maybe she felt like the right door was the right door.
She had a gut instinct, go through that door.
Yeah. Then we get to what is probably the weirdest moment in this movie, and that is the Chili Gang, the fire gang. And this, as I know, it was called the big-lipped alligator moment from the Nostalgia Critic, where it's a weird moment in an already weird film that just kind of comes out of nowhere and then is not addressed again.
Well, it's these are kind of hedonistic animals, so they very much are all emotional. They just do what it feels, but it's these are very complex Muppets too. Oh, yeah. They're taking parts off and throwing their heads around. I mean, I know there's a lot of green screen going on.
Oh yeah, this was their experimental dance number. And if you ever watched the Kevin Clash documentary, he's the guy who voiced Elmo originally.
Okay.
He was put in charge of this sequence. Jim Henson kind of gave his crew little sections to rehearse and get ready before he gave his final approval. And this was Kevin Clash's, and he said this was the most stressful, hard thing because he was still working his way up to becoming a normal, full crew member. And it was a technically challenging shot, but they said they got it the way they wanted.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely is memorable in that it does stand out as a weird moment, like I said, in a weird film.
Yeah, it's this is already a weird film, and this is the weirdest moment in it. We press on and we get to the Bog of Eternal Stench.
Yes, which is a bunch of good fart jokes.
And apparently during the royal premiere in England, this was Prince Charles's favorite part, and he laughed really hard. So, royal humor.
Royal fart humor.
Yeah.
But we get to meet Sir Didymus,
our final member of the party.
Yes, which this is where Terry Gilliam's kind of comes in. This is a very old Monty Python joke, which they've used in the show and also in the movies. If you have a bridge man who has an absurd job of covering this bridge, but kind of folds rather quickly once she figures out the clue.
And it's that fun thing of trying to find the non-combative way is always a fun way to play certain games.
Yes.
And you cannot pass without my permission of, can I have permission of? Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, go ahead.
And what's also cute is that the dog's mount is actually Sarah's dog from reality.
Yeah. And they do a great job of using a real dog and a Muppet dog when necessary.
Yes. We then get the kind of quintessential fairy tale story of a poisoned fruit that we then go into a fever dream.
The ballroom fever dream. This was the part where I feel like the movie stopped for me as a kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it, but as an adult, I can understand why it's here. And I want to point out, I don't know who it is, but in the background is the Muppet choreographer.
Yes.
Of Cheryl McFadden. Now, Cheryl McFadden, the only reason I bring this up is because, again, I'm a nerd and I want to share it. Cheryl McFadden is also known as Gates McFadden, Dr. Beverly Crusher from Star Trek The Next Generation. Before she was a doctor, she was a Muppet choreographer. And she is one of the redheads in that, but because they're all masked, I don't know which one.
Yes. Some factoids about it. This is the only time you see humans besides the two main characters.
And the parents, yeah.
Another fact that I got from my dear friend Liz is that in LA, for the past 20 years, they've been doing a Labyrinth ball where everyone comes dressed up very much in this style and they kind of celebrate Labyrinth. It kind of puts me in mind of Rocky Horror Show, where there's enough of a crowd that still wants to celebrate this year and year.
It's amazing what movies do it. I mean, as we said in Rocky Horror, I know that there's the dude crawl for the Big Lebowski. They'll all dress in their sweaters, and it's you don't know what movie will become a touchstone, but I'm not surprised this one is one.
And I think this is... I kind of go off what you said. This kind of stopped me as a kid, but because I think this is one of the scenes that reminds me. It's so much like an '80s music video, which is neither a bad nor a good thing now. But it's but you do get this no, the movie changes right here, which is okay because she's in this dreamlike sequence.
Yeah, it's that thing of there's been physical peril, now this is mental peril, which is also a common Dungeons and Dragons trope. And then she breaks out, but she's not fully there yet, and she meets the trash lady, the people who collect things on their back.
Right.
And it's like that message of, hey, things shouldn't matter. Your bear, Toby, shouldn't, or your bear shouldn't matter. Your toy shouldn't matter. Experiences, your family, these are the things that
I think
matter.
this is like in a hero's journey, like this is the easy way out. Like, you can forget about it if you just want your things back. And she kind of rejects it. I do find it interesting. It's the first time I've seen it kind of go along with your Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Is after she gets like her toys, she puts a Wizard of Oz book very prominent. This is a very much a Wizard of Oz story too.
It's a very similar with the same meaning of was it real? Everything you see at the beginning, it is definitely a homage to Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. Now we go to the Battle of Goblin City, but we have to meet the first fight, the Gatekeeper.
Yeah, which is a giant goblin mech, which is you get kind of Hoggle's redemption here of him choosing the side.
Yeah, overcoming his cowardice to help the group. Mm-hmm. And then the whole Battle of the City is entertaining. It shows everything, but I think it's just for the kids, for slapstick sake.
No, it is. And it's like you get your third piece of cake moment of where they said, oh, this is a piece of cake, and that's when all the goblin army show up. But it is that fun thing of where the goblins are doing more damage to themselves. And there's like you said, the slapstick.
It's the... Yes, you can be this evil Goblin King, but if you hire bad henchmen, you're not going to get the good work that you want.
Mm-hmm. And then you get the final song of the MC Escher.
Well, before that, I wanted to point out something that I noticed of right before they enter the castle. Mm-hmm. I noticed that the Goblin King gets his milk delivered. Oh. Right at the front gate of the castle, if you look to the bottom left, there are fresh bottles of milk, and it's much easier to see on DVD than the old VHSs, but that made me laugh this time. It's like, oh, you got some milk delivered. But yeah,
then we get
time to drop the beat.
Yes, it's like
MC Escher.
This is a beautiful set design, and I'm sure it was time and a half to film it correctly. I mean, there is obviously 80 special effects going on, but it looks wonderful. And
it is that final great moment of you're there at the end, but you're just out of reach. And the song works great as Sarah is desperately trying to get to her brother.
Right, and there are these moments like, oh, there's a baby on the edge, but you don't know which way is up at this point.
Yeah. And then one of David Bowie's final lines is one I like to use when I'm put upon. It's like, I'm exhausted living up to your expectations of me.
Well, and it's like, this final speech, I encourage everyone just to listen to the words, because this is a juxtaposition speech of, all these things do not work well together. It's like, I will be your slave as long as you do exactly what I say. It's like...
Yes, it's like let me rule you, do what I say, and I'll be your servant. It's like that doesn't make sense.
Exactly, and so it's like it comes back to like nothing about this makes sense, and she finally gets that final line of, "No, you don't get to tell me."
Yeah, and then she wakes up.
And she's home,
and Toby's fine. She gives him Lancelot the bear. She realizes that no, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, and you're kind of in this situation like, was it a dream? And it quickly,
Yeah, and very much like Wizard of Oz, was it a dream or was it real? And I feel like that's a valid question. This movie brings it up because they have the party at the end. Mm-hmm. But does it really matter? Because a really good story, a really good dream, or a actual real adventure, if it is impactful, if it changes you as a person, it doesn't matter if it was real or not, because you are different now. Mm-hmm. And that's this we get this coming of age story of she was playing princess in the park, and then at the end she's taking her mom down, the things that held her back, her realizing that maybe she shouldn't idolize her mom and the man who took her away. Maybe she should embrace her father and her stepmother. But you also get that she doesn't have to get rid of her childish things. She can still be with Hoggle and Ludo and all Sir Didymus. She can still have her childhood and still be an adult. You don't have to get rid of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I said it too.
Yeah, no, that's what I felt. But, I would recommend this for anyone, really. I mean, definitely if you have kids.
Yes.
I might be wearing my nostalgia goggles really heavy on this one.
I mean, I think there is a magic in Jim Henson stuff, like actual written and directed by Jim Henson. I think it is timeless enough that kids of this era will still enjoy it. It doesn't show its age too bad. I think as an evolution from watching Sesame Street or another Muppet film, I think this one still ranks really high in the Muppet pantheon.
Yeah, I mean, because we talked about Dark Crystal, and that's a little bit harder to suggest because it's a little bit higher entry. And then, like, I love the Muppet movies, but even those are a little too silly. So if you have an adult who doesn't want silly, this is this nice thing of, yes, this is a young adult movie, but it's a good young adult movie.
Yeah, and the music works better. And like I said, it's not, you don't see the time on it as much.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's very 80s.
It is, but since it's in, like, a made-up world, you don't feel it as much.
No, but that's what I love about this movie. Of on rewatches, as growing up, you get more, and you can see that they've taken the care, and that everything is there for a purpose. They didn't have to cut anything out with like with some scissors or I don't know a sharp object like I don't know a machete. Because our next movie is Machete. Machete, the Grindhouse. Yes, that was a grind to get to. I apologize, but yes, our next movie is Machete, which is a odd shift from Labyrinth.
Well, yes, so next time we'll be doing Machete. Yeah. We will. I will be my first time seeing it, so we get to grind through this together.
Grindhouse. Hopefully you watch Labyrinth. If not, please do.
Oh, yes.
And join us next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
This is ABC DVD, two brothers' alphabetical journey through their nearly... It says never, not nearly.
Nearly
Indian. It's nearly Indian.
It's only your handwriting.
It's only my handwriting.